This is what's driving you. And so my first question, man, I'm gonna get right to it. What's driving
Yeah,
you?
about my old lady, my kids, my family. That's what drives.
I wouldn't have met you when I did. Here you go. Shut this shit. That's why it gets you in trouble.
What's up, man? This is what's driving you. I'm Keyon Dooling. What's driving you? And I'm gonna end like this. I think that the biggest room in the world, the biggest room in your life, is the room for improvement. Hey, what's going on, good people? My name is Keyon Dooling, and this is what's driving you. Today, I have an extremely special guest, one of my friends, one of my Florida boys, one of my comrades, somebody who I have a lot of respect for, a lot of love for, and a lot of admiration for. He's going to tell his story today, right? The different parts of his story. This is what's driving you. Today, our special guest is Dr. Larry Sanders, 7-year NBA veteran, defensive player, two-time conference defensive player of the year at VCU, Florida boy, mental health advocate, serial entrepreneur, cannabis advocate. You know, the guys are really benefiting from the stance that you've taken, while you were still playing. But Larry, man, I want to welcome you today, man. Thank you for joining What's Driving You, champ.
Man, no, thank you for having me, KD, for sure, man. Thank you, getting me up here, man. I appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. I'm low key kind of feeling the kind of way because like usually, when I first got with you when you were a rookie, you was deep in your Wiz Khalifa stage. So you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
I'm supposed to have theme music for you, either in the cut, rolling doobies up,
Hey,
or she said she
you
never
hear me?
been, or
She
something.
said she never did,
Yeah, but
yes,
man,
sir.
that was a great time and space, man. So let's go back to the beginning, man. Being out of Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce in particular, growing up in that
Mhm.
area of Florida. How was it growing up for you, man? And before I even ask, how was it growing up for you? Like, what was driving you, man, to get to the person who you are today? If you reflect and you go back to your childhood, what's driving you?
Well, my mother and my father played a very important role in my life.
Hmm.
Of course, my they had a 17-year age difference. My mother was, heavily involved in the streets, and so was my father. And that's how they met. And it wasn't a situation where it was supposed to pan out to be anything for real. My mom wasn't supposed to have kids. My dad was a street dude. He had a daughter already. And she ended up getting pregnant and having my sister, and then having me a year later on the same day.
Mm.
So yeah, my mom was she was about 21 at the time, about 21, 22 when she had me. And they just had a rough dynamic growing up. You know what I mean? My dad lived so many different lives before he had me. My dad he was one of the first black mailmen down in Florida. He was in the army. He was a letter carrier. He did some stuff in the streets after he retired from two different. He retired from the army and then he got injured. Um, he got acid poured on him. Spent
Wow.
a year in the hospital. Yeah, by his first wife, but he was abusive.
Mm.
He was abusive, so she retaliated. He spent a year in the hospital fighting for his life. And all this stuff is what happened before I even came about.
Mm.
So, we talk about generational trauma, but then what about that personal trauma that we deal with as well that goes into our DNA that, our kids have to deal with is something to look at as well. But I said to say, he lived a lot of different lives. So then um, my mom uh, ended up leaving my father when I was around 4. My sister was around like 5. And, we went in and out of battered women's shelters. We was, spent some time homeless, spent some time living in cars.
Mm.
And, ended up moving in with some family. And it was, man, I lived in a house with probably about 17 to 20 people. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Mm.
From my aunties, my uncles to, everybody, we all lived there with my grandmother. She had rheumatoid arthritis and diabetes, so she was on bed rest
Mhm.
my whole life.
Mhm.
I've never seen my grandma drive a car. I never gone to the park with my grandma. I never took a walk with her.
Yeah.
She always, she was always in her bed. You know how it is growing up.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So, just, I think my family, that's what we fell back on. That's
Yeah.
who had us, and those were some of the best times in my life. In that house with all them people.
It's it's,
You know
it's
what I mean? Running around as a kid.
Yeah, it's great you say that because like, we always hear this term, it takes a village, right, to raise a child. And you
Yeah,
had a village there. And though you probably in the moment didn't know like how difficult it was, there was a lot of love there. There was always something popping there. Everybody was making sure Big Mama's good. Everybody was living together. Everybody was sharing and all those different things, those different dynamics. And so even in the midst of like, chaos, man, we can still find peace. We can still find love. We can still find joy. But how did that shape you moving forward as you kind of went through high school and kind of, hit
yeah.
your growth spurt and started hooping and things
Right.
like that? How did some of those moments shape you, from the childhood?
Well, I was always an artist. That was my thing as a child. I loved to draw. I would draw comics out of the newspaper. I wanted to draw for Disney, and I was big into movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love movies even as a young kid. The music, the scores, the tones, how to create emotion through these different dynamics in these different movies to allow a person to actually believe that they're frightened,
Mm.
or that or that person is dying, or that person is happy, or that person is sad. um all the inner workings were always
So,
super intriguing.
so it sounds to me that like you had this ability to use your imagination, right? You had this
Yeah,
creativity to be able to, draw and do artwork and you know what I mean, like dream big. So when was the
yeah,
first time like for you that you visualized, yourself getting to the next level? Was that something like if you was walking by a chair in the house, did you Euro step it? When you were walking through a door, did that become the
see,
rim and you dunked it? Like did you always have this creative intelligence around visualization and
yeah,
creativity?
yeah. 1000%. When it came to basketball, 1000%. When I fell in love with the game, it was I found little things I could do throughout the day
Mm-hmm.
that could help me get better at basketball.
Right.
Like, just, create. Yeah, while I'm watching TV, I'm doing little things with the ball, or certain different exercises or certain things I may learn in between the commercials while I'm watching the game, and then I'm around the house doing squats, and and I always had my ball with me. Once I fell in love with basketball, funny story is, I come from a treacherous place. I really come from the trenches,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's
it's
real.
games,
It's real.
it's games on. You know what I'm saying? It was games on every corner, every street. You had 10th Street game, 12th Street game, 23rd Street game, V Side, Harmony Heights, Plaza Boys, Airport Road Boys. Everywhere you turn, it was a game. So,
Mm.
my mama lived in the projects. My grandma lived in Harmony Heights. My daddy lived in the Airport Road. My cousins lived in the Plaza. So, in order for me to get around and push around on my bike, I had to keep the basketball with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, before I even fell in love with basketball for real and even took the game seriously, I always had a basketball,
Mm.
because they was like, oh, he going to the court. He a tall
He
kid.
ain't
He gonna leave him
already.
alone. You know what I mean? He ain't got to bang. He ain't got to. He ain't got to claim nothing. You know what I'm saying? And they left the hoopers alone.
Yeah.
You know how
Facts.
it is in the hood. So,
Yeah. Facts. Facts. So
um,
so speaking of that, like just being a Florida boy, man, historically we've been always known for a football state, right?
mhm,
As far as athletics. And now, man, when you look around, like Florida, we are really on the map. We've really made a impact, carved out a niche. Like, talk about growing up down here at the crib.
mhm,
There's a dancing culture, there's a car culture, there's a food
yeah,
culture, there's a slap box culture, there's all these different things being a Florida boy. So talk a little bit
yeah.
about like childhood and how like Florida shaped you.
Yeah, I always say the South stop at Georgia. We in the South. We a whole different. We a whole we island.
It's a little
We got that
different.
island mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different, because we got a lot of islanders. We got a lot of Caribbeans and Cubans and Haitians, Jamaicans. We grow up with so much different culture and so much different food. You know what I mean? And I think that I love it, man. I look back on my upbringing, and how my neighbors had pigs in their backyard. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I had chickens running around. You know what I mean? Some of my best friends, You know, they was raising, they had farms, they was growing their
Yeah,
food. You know, we
yeah,
had banana
facts,
trees.
facts.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and
that was
and and
it
tell
was a
tell the
beautiful
people your
place.
city again, so they know, so they
Fort
put some
Pierce.
respect on it.
Fort,
Fort Pierce,
yo,
Florida.
yes, sir. When
Yes,
y'all
sir.
see it now, stop in there and get you some chicken. Don't just go do it like it's a truck stop.
Straight up,
People think it's a truck.
straight up.
You know, it take about 15 minutes to get through the city.
No, no doubt, man.
Yes.
I appreciate you for sharing that a little bit. So I'm gonna segue a little bit into college, right? You get to VCU. Were you highly recruited coming out of high school? Was VCU and was Coach Smart there at that point? Did he recruit you, or is it
Nah, nah,
somebody
it was
before
Anthony
Smart?
Grant. It was
Okay.
Anthony
Oh,
Grant who
Coach Grant.
recruited me.
Okay, Miami
Yes,
High's
sir.
finest,
Yes,
Coach
sir.
Grant.
Yes, sir. Yes,
What
sir.
what
Him
what a
and
wonderful man.
Pujols. Man, amazing, man.
Yep. So
Great
talk a
dude.
little bit about like your college, rhythm, because like you
Yeah.
weren't like a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. You didn't have all these accolades and things like that. You kind of flew under the radar a little bit. So just kind
Yeah.
of take us through, that college, progression.
Yeah. I mean, it hit me like a whirlwind, man. You know, like I had no idea. I had started playing basketball when I was in 10th grade. So, you know, I had no offers in 10th grade. I had no offers in 11th grade. I go and play AAU for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
And man, by the time I was done with that circuit, I had every mid major in the college, I mean in the country sending me letters. I was so overwhelmed, and at the time I didn't know the difference between a D1, D2, D3. I go
Mm.
to the basketball court, they ask me when I'm gonna say D3 because I thought that was the highest level you can go.
Right, right.
So I
I
had
feel
to
you.
call me D3 at the basketball court, not even knowing D1. I was just that far, removed from the education of it. So it just hit like a whirlwind. But VCU was always there. They were consistent. Once I went on my visit, I just knew I wanted to go there. It was in the heart
Mm.
of Richmond. The city's built right in the city. Coach Grant had a very stern mentality that was kind of militant, but I knew that's what I needed. And how he had them, how everybody just bought in. You know what I mean? Like I was at a practice, and I see guys diving on the floor. Just the energy in the
Yeah.
gym was amazing.
Well,
It
he is
was
a Florida
amazing,
boy, and he did come up
man.
under the Shaky Rodriguez's and the Miami High's infrastructure.
Hmm.
So Coach Grant always stood on business, but the thing that he stood most on was integrity. Coach Grant is
Yes,
a man
sir.
who's full of integrity, full of life. He's like the
Yeah,
real true OG down here, man. He really, gave a
yeah,
lot of us an opportunity to showcase our skills.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, man, great dude. So coming into college, I was, like you said, not highly recruited, but they saw something in me. They saw something in me, and they fed that.
Hmm.
We stayed in the gym. You know, stayed in the gym,
Yeah,
and worked and worked and worked. And at that point, I was so in love with the growth that you couldn't get the basketball out of my hand because
yeah,
I knew it would get better. It was just simple recipe. If I it's repetition. If I work on this enough, I'm gonna
hmm
get better at it.
yeah.
If I get better at it, I'm gonna apply it in the game. You know what I'm saying? And it's a wrap.
Yeah. And
So
in that time and space, man, you won defensive player of the year twice in the conference, your first
yeah,
team all conference, and now you're putting yourself in a position where you're on the circuit, not on the circuit, but on the map as far as being an NBA
right,
player, right? And
right,
so
right.
in 2010, the Milwaukee Bucks take you at 15, dude. Like talk to me a little bit about that. Where did you watch the draft? Like
Yeah,
what were the emotions going along with that, and how did you feel on that night where you heard your name get called?
yeah, man. So that was it was amazing. It was surreal. I put my head down and just worked. Like I really fell in love with basketball. It wasn't
Hmm.
about into the NBA. It was like wherever this go, this is wherever it go, it go. But I love doing this. I love
Right.
playing this game. I love competing. You know what I mean? And so I got there, and I surprised myself, man. I just did not know. I didn't know
You didn't know you was that
it was
good. You
so
didn't know you was that
fast.
talented.
When I played against other players, I did because I was
Hmm.
killing. I was killing. You know what I mean? You can, but it just happened so fast, KD, that you know what I mean. Like I wasn't fully prepared. I'll say that.
Mm.
I think I make that point to say that more. There's a lot that comes into when you get in that position. Your support system, your financials, your management.
And
All of
your
this stuff had to
upbringing,
just
the
come about.
traumas and
Yeah,
and the
and a
baggage
lot of
that you bring to that moment.
right, right, and not a some more than not are somewhat prepped and primed for that.
Yeah,
Going through the AU circuit,
yeah,
having different coaches, having playing with different people. You know what I mean? Having their parents prepared for them, pushing them in that direction. Um, families prepare for it sometimes. You know what I mean? So it
it's a
just
lot.
it just came, it just hit me out of nowhere. Yeah, you
It's
know
a
what I'm
lot.
talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I could remember, coming over and spending time with you when you weren't playing a lot, right? And you and Wolf would, Lord rest Wolf's soul, Coach Wolf would have you in there and you'll be getting your work in, and it didn't seem like your opportunity would come. And
Hmm.
man, I remember very specifically, after I kind of got to know you a little bit and your guard was down a little bit. So um I was able to kind of tap into you creatively. So I remember like saying, "Hey, watch Amari Stoudemire. Look how he comes out of the pick and roll, and look at the way that he probes before he gets it." Like I kind of like visually like inserted you into those moments, and you was like,
Hmm.
damn, something clicked in that moment. So
Hmm.
because the league is so young right now, man, like talk a little bit about like veteran leadership, what it did for you, and what you think some of these young guys right now are kind of missing without having
Yeah.
been around.
Yeah, I mean, it was everything for me. McGetty,
Big Drew.
Drew, yeah, even Sam,
Hmm.
everybody, Bogut when he was not being an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Even Ilyas Silva, everybody became somewhat of a figure for me to model something out off of, John Salmons,
Hmm.
um,
Quiet killer.
these are, man, just standing up guys, man. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I was very fortunate to be around a bunch of very um, professional, but also real veterans. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it helped.
Real veterans, man. Yeah, man. You know what I mean? I was my situation. I feel like I had to. You know what I mean? Given my situations, God had to put some angels around me. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because you know how it was down in Milwaukee,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. You
It's
was
a cold,
quick to the
dark place
fade.
at
Yeah,
one
yeah.
point, man.
That
It was
temper
it
was
was like a grave. It was like a graveyard.
yeah.
It was like players would go there and try to revamp their careers, and run into Scott Scow's ass and have to take their headband off
Boy,
and
Scott
end
was mean as a
up
rattlesnake. Scott was good,
right.
mean as a rattlesnake. That's for sure. And I
You
like
know what I
Scott,
mean?
man. Me and Scott, we would butt heads from time to time, but he
Yes,
would
sir.
receive it. Like he would give it, but he would receive it too. So Scott just was
Yeah.
mean as a rattlesnake, and one of the guys who I felt like X's and O's and understanding the game, and because he put in the work, he could have really went down as one of the better coaches from the generation. But I just think his inability to relate to people, kind of really halted his growth a little bit. Is
Yeah, the,
what it
the
is.
league changes, the players' league. Yeah,
Yeah,
man. You became a place where you players contain more control.
yeah,
So about the coach at one point.
yeah. So you go from, not playing a whole bunch your rookie year, right? Getting opportunities, staying ready, developing yourself, keeping your body ready in the streets, you know what I mean? Burning both ends of the candle, all that good stuff.
Hmm.
And so now like you're in a position now where the team is relying on you. You've had, block shot triple doubles. Your reputation is gone, you growing. You got an extension, 4 years, 44, right? If I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. And so
Hmm.
like you were, on the surface, man, and as far as the career was going, man, things were really starting to kind of take off for you. But in the middle of that apex, in the middle of that climb, you kind of went through some things mentally,
Hmm.
emotionally, in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your heart. um and so a little bit about that, like talk to me a little bit about like your mental health journey when you were playing, right? And it felt like it was too much and that you needed to kind of turn a new leaf in your life. Talk about a little bit of that 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 moment in time where you were going through your journey, your brother sunshine, like Martin, on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, um, I had I have been dealing with stuff internally for for a while,
Mm-hmm.
right? Really asking myself these questions of is this something I really want to do long term? Am I managing my life right? Like, where's the direction of this? Like, where am I really going? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's really about? What can I really see? And this is in the midst of I was at USA. I was playing for the USA team, and we were in Vegas, and I was trying out. And this was the same year PG tore his leg up. You
Mm-hmm.
remember that year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was supposed to play in that game, but I sprained my ankle, so they flew me back to Milwaukee, and I signed my contract. I signed my contract like the next day. Um, Rested up, healed my ankle. They hired Larry Drew. Larry Drew's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Drew's my guy.
Me
Cool,
too.
cool as a
Mm-hmm.
fan. Cool as a fan. So Drew comes in, third game of the season. He doesn't play me. Like, they just paid me. He ain't played me. I think maybe like 10 minutes. I don't know what it was, but it was throwing me off. It was
Mm-hmm.
throwing me off because I just come off this double season, averaging leading the league in blocks, almost defensive player of the year. Most improved. So I'm going forward now, right? So I'm used to playing most of the minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
especially the fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my quarter, and I ain't played none of the fourth, and I was frustrated. And instead of having that conversation with Drew, I didn't even really give myself time. I just left. I
Mm-hmm.
left. I went out that night to a club called 720, and I had a bunch of friends in town. And um, I saw a friend of mine. She was partying. I came up to her, hey, happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, somebody starts pouring liquor down. And the way the club is set up, there's a balcony above the dance floor,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a separate room where there's a VIP section where all my people are. So I'm just, me, I'm walking around saying what's up to the bouncers, the club owners. I don't have no security. I don't, how I
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Just trying to be with the people. And which was my fault. But I left myself vulnerable, and I put myself in a situation. I got jumped by some dudes. I end up tearing the ligament in my thumb, and it had me out for, man, like 50 games. And the
Mm-hmm.
Bucks had the worst season in the NBA. We had the worst record in the NBA. We had Giannis. Me and Giannis was supposed to go to work. We had B Knight.
Mm-hmm.
We had Middleton, and I felt like for one, I really let them down.
Mm-hmm.
Because they needed me. I
Mm-hmm.
was gone, and then I also felt like I wasn't able to tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
It immediately went to TMZ. Larry Sanders hit somebody in the head with a bottle and breaks his hand. That's the headline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And um, it was, and that's how it was approached by the team. And that was alerting as well. There was no conversation. It was just more like punishment, and
Mm-hmm.
and we don't want to hear it. It's like it was difficult, man. So
Yeah.
I was out for that about 50 games. We got the worst record in the NBA. I come back. I start getting my rhythm back. I'm hooping. We playing the Rockets at home. I'm killing the white ass. James. We giving them work, right?
Mm-hmm. Talk that
I
talk.
can wait to see
Talk
the
that
white
talk, yeah.
killing the white ass. So James Harden. He coming down from rebound. I'm going up. Boom, elbow hit me right in my eye, blow out my orbital, blows out the bone behind my eye,
Mm-hmm.
blow out. So, but I go out. I'm on the training table. You can tell the mood is, we don't want this guy to be hurt. Fuck, we don't need him to be hurt again. We out. We got the worst record. He just hurt his thumb. He just came back. We just going. I don't know what they wanted to do. Just let me heal on my own. I don't know, but they let me go to sleep on the training table. They never gave me a concussion test. They send me home. I get dressed. I go home. Luckily, my wife at the time, my ex-wife, she's like, "You can't go to sleep. Like, you was down for a minute. I think you
Mm-hmm.
concussed. You could be." Don't go to sleep. Like that'll make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I already been asleep for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? So the next day they send me in. They're like, "Wow, you broke your orbital. We got
Oh
to
wow.
rush you down to Chicago right now to get surgery on your eye." You know, I'm like, that should have happened last night. You know, it was so much of it that was so off-putting
Mm-hmm.
for the marquee player. I'm the highest paid player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
You would think there would be more of a sense of urgency, but it was more of a, not again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. So
know?
you didn't feel supported during that time.
Yeah,
You ain't feeling
man. You
love.
know,
Yeah.
so you know, I blow out my orbital. I'm out for the rest of the season. You know, at that point, I'm gassed up, KD.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gassed up. I send my family back home. I'm in the top floor of this new little thing they done built in Milwaukee, and I'm just gassed up every day,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
You
You
know what I
going in.
mean? Smoking
Mm-hmm.
more than I ever smoked. You know what I mean? I didn't even smoke before I met you. I ain't smoked weed before I met you, Katie. You know what I'm saying? Like before I met, got into the league my second year, I ain't smoked weed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had tried it when I was maybe 15, but never did it consistently. So yeah, man. So I'm smoking more than I ever smoked. You know what I mean? And then I end up being in rehab, going to rehab that summer,
Mm-hmm.
and they get Jason Kidd, right? So Kid, Gersh, they come and visit me in rehab, um, and I'm there for marijuana, and I felt like it was important. It was kind of dope. You know what I mean? For him to come, them to
Yeah.
visit me. We worked out, blah blah blah. I say that because that plays into really ultimately one of the reasons why I retired.
Okay.
You know that later, that year we play that year out. Jason, I come back. I'm trying to get my groove back, and it just seemed like he just got something against me or something. I don't know. It just seemed like stuff was, these personal attacks. You soft and just all this stuff coming out. It was wild, and I felt like, I don't know. I felt like he kind of used that moment against me
Mm.
in certain ways. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And my body broke down physically. It was Christmas Eve, and we had this. He canceled. We were supposed to go home with our families. He told everybody to cancel their flights, and he made this practice out of nowhere on Christmas Eve. So we practicing, and my body couldn't take it, man. My body broke down. I was in the hospital Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Wow.
No family. Nobody came to visit me. No coaches. It was just,
Mm.
at that point, man, I was done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was done. I had been concussed and left on the table. I had been. I was done. I was like, what am I doing and what am I doing it for?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Man, I appreciate you for being so vulnerable in that moment because I think we all, as athletes, have to face that moment, right? Where you feel like you just don't know how much you can give. Whether you feel underappreciated, undervalued, not respected, not heard, whether you're dealing with trauma and pain from your past, whether uh, the need to perform is weighing you down. There's so many different verticals, and then you still have to be the patriarch and the matriarchs of the family, and kind of still make sure that everything is right, and you feel empty, right? And so it sounds to me that like in that moment you were feeling a little bit burned out.
yeah, for sure.
You're feeling a little bit burnt out, underappreciated, undervalued, and you know what I mean? You still were young, so you still had untreated trauma that was probably an underlying issue that you hadn't really unpacked at the time.
Yeah,
Cannabis was a great outlet because I know how it made me feel when I was younger, and
right,
food tastes better, and lights were more, brighter, and music, heard better. All these different things that we're going through in this moment, and you feel so alone. And a lot of times, in that fight or flight, we can choose to flight.
right.
So I definitely get it. I understand it, man. I wish the OG vets would have been around you more at that time. The league was going a little bit younger after that collective bargaining agreement. So there wasn't as many vets around. But man, I appreciate the way that you tackled it. And because you did that, man, I think the NBA was the first the first sports league with a mental health program. Um,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cannabis that
Which
you
didn't
were
exist.
using to medicate
Mhm.
yourself is now not tested for. So in a
Right,
lot of ways, through your adversity, you really impacted the system systemically. So
right.
do you feel that? Do you feel like,
And
you
that,
were
yeah, and
trailblazing down there?
that was a part of my, I was like, man, I could go down in the history books and be this guy who had all these points and all these numbers attached to my name that just blends in with the rest.
Yeah.
Or I could be somebody who made a difference, you know what I mean? It changed some shit where it's like, okay, you know what I mean? It's something happened. There
Yeah.
was a spark. There was and that was a part of, the midst of me making that decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, for
No, that's
sure.
dope. El, let me ask about this, like, because you always you talked about your childhood and always like having this creative intelligence and this ability to express yourself creatively. And so from that, kind of segueing out of basketball and going into some other, places that you kind of explored. Man, dude, you
Mhm.
designed clothes and made your own clothes and did a lot of cool things with that. You created music and and did some incredible things with that. You started your foundation where you really, really, lock in and tap in with the youth, and you're giving a lot back. And I see you going all across the globe doing those different things. So talk a little bit about. Oh, last thing I'll say also with that is like you're an entrepreneur. I would like to say serial entrepreneur because you're doing it in more than one way.
Mhm.
So since you stopped playing, you've been able to kind of tap into your creative intelligence while still playing, right? Still being a part of the game. You did
Yeah.
the big three, and you
Overseas a little bit, yeah.
overseas a little bit as well. So expanded your fan base, so and all those different things. But was your creativity a place where you took that passion and that energy from basketball and kind of placed it there?
Right away.
Mm-hmm.
Right away. Kenny. Yes, sir. I started the artist incubator. What I did was I took the basketball team aspect, the working hard, the camaraderie, the you know, having a direct plan and a goal, having an adversary. I took all of that and put it into the creative world and started an incubator. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a fashion designer, a screenwriter, a photographer, musicians. I housed them all. Some were homeless at the time,
Mm.
but I put them all into one house. They all got a room. We built out their space, whether it was backdrops for photos or what are those? The For the hangers for the we built out the garage for the fashion designer, so it was like
Mm-hmm.
a whole fashion studio. So and then we all collabed on projects together. So my artist needed wardrobe. I had that in house. We
Mm-hmm.
also need for photos. We got that in house. We need scripts. We got that in house. We got writers. So everything was there. So
Wow,
everyone just leaned on each other, and yeah, man, and everyone just took off like within a year. I mean, the alumni from that is ridiculous. Like those
man,
guys are thriving. They thriving, man.
man,
So
love to hear that.
definitely want to do that again. I want to do that in different cities. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but LA was where I did it at, and man, it was dope. I did that for about 2 years. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
touch a basketball. I'm talking about I didn't even have a basketball in the house with us. No, didn't touch
Mm.
one. You know what I mean? And then ended up kind of, I wouldn't even say dissolving it, but I released my artist and then went back and played with Braun and the Cavs.
Man,
That was kind of how that went.
man, that's what I'm talking about right there, El. That's how you navigate that thing. El, before we kind of segue, man, I want to kind of go back to mental health. Um,
Mhm.
what would how old were you when you retired the first time? 2013, you were around what, 20,
26,
26 years old.
26.
So this manifested this older version of you, right? What would you tell a younger Larry Sanders about that experience when you can, retroactively kind of look back, get outside your body and turn it around?
Mhm. Yeah.
Is there something that you feel like you could have done differently? Would you have liked to, maybe gotten treatment, therapy earlier, maybe got some things off your chest earlier? Like, you know what I mean? Is there something that, like, when you look back now, somebody who's 26 years old might be going through something right now? What would you tell those people in this moment why they might feel like the whole world is kind of collapsing in on them?
Um, well, K man, I got a therapy session tomorrow. So
Good
I've
for
been I've
you.
been I've been in therapy since probably I was 12. My
Mm,
mom chose to choose therapy over, a lot of the other options that were in the hood at the time, which was drugs, Ritalin and all these different pills that you could put your kids on to get some money for.
mm,
She knew I had some issues, but she knew therapy was gonna be a better route. So I've
mm,
always trusted in therapy. I've always believed in it. It's like, you can go to the gym and look at all them weights and say, I want to get my legs stronger. And you can go do the leg press and move around. You might injure something, you might pull something, you might not have the correct form. Or you can get a trainer, and the trainer can tell you exactly what you need to do to get those muscles correct. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And I feel like
mhm.
that's how it is when it comes to therapy. And even injuries, mental injuries, right?
Yeah.
If I sprain my ankle, I'm going to be limping. And I can
Mhm,
sit down and I can just walk around and say, man, it's gonna heal, whatever. Man, I gotta put no ice on it. I'm just gonna walk, and it's gonna be painful. I'm just gonna keep doing it. I don't. Who
mhm.
cares? You know what I
Right.
mean? I would never do that physically, but mentally, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
We go through these mental injuries, and we just try to keep pushing.
Yeah,
You know what I
those
mean? Like
invisible
you gotta,
scars that you can't see but you can feel,
yes, sir.
right?
You got a
Right.
mental ankle sprain. You ain't put no
Yeah.
ice on it. You still trying to run.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No,
Yeah,
that's beautiful, bro. So segue in a little bit, right? Because you talked about your transition, being creative, creating the fashion creativity like hub, right? And putting things out, going back, playing in the big three, playing overseas. You got a extremely big Asian population that like really, messes with L Sanders and they
yeah,
follow your work and they're like very, very supportive. And I know that's an important part of the world that you've connected with, because you're just that global. But also I know that, like, kind of being a basketball savant, being a basketball icon in a sense, where you go out and you champion the basketball game and you teach and you do camps and all these different things. It all hasn't been peaches and cream. There was a story that you shared with me that I would love for you to kind of talk about on this platform, man. I think it could be so helpful. I think it can be so insightful. So tell me a little bit about some of the uh, adversity and the tough experience that you kind of went through recently with going and traveling and trying to be a basketball, um, you know,
yeah,
lifer. Hold on, I want to run
yeah,
that
yeah.
back. Let me run that back. I didn't like the way yeah, what's the word I'm looking for that? What's
Uh,
the word I'm looking for like a basketball like traveler, like
it's,
somebody who like
it's, some- it's the word that starts
ambassador.
with an S. Okay, ambassador. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna run that one back. So, El, I know that there was a situation that happened in some of your basketball travels as you've been the great global basketball ambassador, that you told me about that kind of like, really hurt my spirit. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm just so thankful and so happy that we get to, kind of talk about it now. But I know while you were in it, it wasn't fun. Share a little bit about some of the adversity that you just kind of recently went through, that was a bit traumatic, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, I'll say it's something that I didn't think that I would ever. I didn't think I would ever experience it. Honestly, some you hear about, and um, you may read about, but until you're in it, it's kind of like it's kind of crazy, man.
Yeah.
I was invited to come and play for a good amount of money in China for about a month. It was about a month I was supposed to be there. And I got the contract from Lakeem Duncan, who was an ex-pro, who was in Taiwan. I mean, is in Thailand, and Orion Green, who is someone who I played with in the NBA. So
Mhm.
Orion approached me about going to play in a few tournaments in China, and he knew this guy who he had worked with. So I mean, it was kind of last minute, but it was something that it seemed like a good, a good opportunity. And China was some place that I definitely wanted to visit. So man, I get there, and you know, I would say within the first 5 to 10 days, things started kind of feeling kind of off a little bit. There were reimbursements that were supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be made, arrangements and whatnot that kind of fell through. So I was kind of already kind of, feeling kind of weird. But it was, I'm like 24 hours away from home. You know what I mean? 24-hour flight. You know what I mean? So, I'm just trying to, thug it out a little bit. And I'm also there with some younger guys. So we had some guys there that was like 22, 23, fresh out of college, who were also brought there to play in these tournaments. And, we started to, kind of have a bond and connect. We get sent to play in a tournament that's about 6 hours away from the city that we're in. So we have to travel. We get there, we play 2 games. We killing. Beat these teams by like 30 points, right?
Is it going in and out?
Can you hear me? Is it frozen?
Yeah. Hey, yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. The signal,
Yeah, it's
it's
okay.
going in and out a little bit.
Okay. You want me to start over?
Yeah. Is it better?
Okay.
Okay, L.
It
Yeah,
might be
start
mine.
take it from the top one more time with that, L.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I was given a contract to go and play in a few games in China for a stint of about 28 days, for a good amount of money. I was, excuse me, I was approached by Orion Green, which was someone I played with in the NBA, and he had a partner,
It's
Lakeem
not doing
Duncan,
it right.
who is not.
Yeah. L,
It's,
we
it's still
still
messing up.
breaking up, buddy.
Man, what's going
Mm-hmm.
on? I wonder, is that me? Let me see. Oh, okay. It might be me. Let me see.
Is
Let
it
me take it
the
off.
Wi-Fi?
Might be better now. Is it better now? Is it better now?
What you think, Max?
Because I had to turn something. It was trying to. Might be better now.
Okay, let's try it again, L.
Okay, cool.
Let's try it one more time.
Okay, cool. Let me know. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. First, I was given a contract to go and play in a tournament in China. It was supposed to be a few tournaments over a stint of about 28 days. Um, for a good amount of money. It
Mm-hmm.
was it was it was a good deal. Um, uh, I was approached by Lakeem Duncan and Orion Green. Orion Green is I played with him in the NBA. I guess they formed a agency, and they were getting players over there and connecting them with different guys in China to play in different tournaments. Um, I get there, and we're sent to play in a tournament. It's about 6 hours away from the city that we landed in. We play in this tournament. First game, we beat this team by like 30 points. That later that night,
Buckets.
around like 10, 11, yeah, around like 10, 11 p.m., we get a knock on our door, and it's immigration. And they're asking to see our passports. We look at our passports, and then they tell us we have to come down to the immigration office. All of a sudden, we get a call from, Lakeem and Orion and these guys, and they're like, "Hey, look, tell them, you're just there, and you're not playing for money." And we had to get this whole script now, because basically our visas were restricted to the city that we were in. We were never supposed to be in that city. We had a 10-day visa restricted to the city that we were supposed to be flying into. So we were there illegally. So we're
Oh
sitting in
wow.
immigration for about until like 4 a.m. We're sitting in immigration, and they're interrogating us, and they're asking us the same thing over and over again. And I'm saying I'm just tourist. I'm just visiting. They're like, well, you don't have a tourist visa. Your visa is restricted to the city that you're in. So you're 6 hours away from where you're supposed to be, touring around China. Like, you know what I mean? It just sounds
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And then I'm playing this
Scary.
basketball tournament
That's
for
scary, bro.
money. Yeah, yeah, it was very, yeah, and luckily they let us go. They said we had to leave by 12 p.m. the next day, out of the city. So we leave and we go back. At this point, I'm disgruntled. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. The 18th is approaching. I'm supposed to get half of my money on the 18th and half on the 28th. We're sitting in these hotel rooms for days. My visa expired on the 19th. I'm supposed to get paid on the 18th. Neither happened. My visa expired, no renewal.
Mm,
Didn't get paid. I didn't have their currency. The currency exchange was so far. There was no taxis. I'm talking about I'm in the middle of China, so it's like it was
mm.
crazy, man. Luckily, one of the coaches
Ooh.
on the team was sending us food through his app. Like he was sending us KFC every day, twice a day. So we were eating that in the hotel. But other than that, I mean, we was just surviving, And the internet was down.
Wow.
The government shut down on us. I don't know if y'all know the government was shut down. Everything was. It was like I just felt helpless, bro. I felt helpless. It was tough. I mean, I'm talking about
Yeah, I feel helpless listening to it.
I was spending days on my phone trying to go to different websites to buy tickets. Because I would be able to get to the ticket, and then it would go in and say the ticket was gone. It would say I had to refresh, or it would say the credit card didn't work. It would say something every time. You know what I mean? To the point where, man, Katie, I started losing my vision, bro.
Mm,
I started literally losing my vision, like from stress. You know what I mean? And luckily my sister came through, and some things were able to. She was able to get me out of there. I got stopped at the border. They were like, "Why are you here 4 days past your expired visa?" They tried to make me pay. I already had a warning from the city. It was tough, bro.
mm.
It was tough, and I was
Yeah,
just
no,
left out
that's
to dry.
scary.
I didn't get paid. Didn't get paid. The guy stopped answering. Lakeem and Orion disappeared. It just it was like, how could you put? And it wasn't just me. Luckily I was able to get out of there. Some of the younger guys were still stuck there longer, had to fly to Hong Kong to renew
Mm.
their visas before they could even try to get out of there. Um, just a lot of different stuff, man. Just so unfortunate that you wouldn't even think what's going on, man. But I feel like I have to speak
No,
about it
no,
and bring
that's
awareness. And it's not something it's like tough to really go back into that moment, but people need to understand, like, people are going through this, and this could be
yeah,
your
man.
son, this could be your brother, this could be your dad.
No,
You know what I mean?
I so appreciate you, sharing that with us. Because like in our post career, man, there's a lot of us who, travel and, still want to extend our brand equity and make money and see places and things like that. So it's a part of our, being ambassadors that we want to
Right,
champion the game across the globe. But
right.
not like this, man. This is terrible. I'm glad you brought some attention to it because those guys need to be held accountable. People need to know what's going on the front end. If there's any insight that you could give our guys who might be getting called for opportunities internationally and things like that, is there something that you wish you could have done differently that can kind of protect you a little bit more? Maybe getting the money up front, maybe like just understand a little bit better. What would you like? What would you like your message to be to guys so that they can avoid this kind of situation, bro? Because that's scary, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely say, get money up front, even if they purchase a ticket, and get arrangements, we'll definitely get, some portion up front. I have contracts,
Mhm.
I have to do things, legally, to get my money. But, just make sure you have contracts put in place, make sure, you have records, and, there's proof, and, you do your logistics, man. But, I think my downfall was really trusting somebody that I felt I knew, you know what I mean? And not really venting, like vetting them on if they vetted that other person.
So glad you were able to get out of that and kind of share this story. So any of our guys, man, in the future who might be thinking about going to China, they got to make sure that they really, cross their T's and dot their I's, man, because that's not a place where you really want to go and be in limbo. at all.
No, for sure,
For
one
sure,
thousand
for
percent.
sure, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, man. I'm so glad you got through that, man. That's really like a little low key, like traffic and low key. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? There's
yeah.
some residue of trafficking
I had
there.
to look it up. I really had to like research it myself, man. You know, after going through it, like, what did I just go through? What was that? You know, it was
Yeah,
a
man.
bunch of, it was fraud. It was, you know, it falls under, you know, human trafficking. Honestly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Well, thank you for sharing that, man, because I know that can be easy, man, and I think that'll help a lot of guys in their transition as they kind of continue their basketball ambassador journeys. El,
Hmm.
before I get you out of here, man, like I said earlier, man, I know you're a serial entrepreneur. You have a foundation, so you got that heart of philanthropy. You know what I mean? You just are a creator. You know, that's just who you kind of are, man. That's just a part of your DNA. So what are you working on right now, man? Where can the people find you? What do you want everybody to know right now? What you got popping right now, champ?
Yeah. Well, I'm coaching, so I love to coach. I'm coaching kids right now. So shout out
Okay.
to my
You
business.
coaching or
Yes,
you coaching?
yes, sir. Yes,
All right.
sir. I'm coaching.
That's
I'm
what I
coaching
like
high
to hear.
school right now, man.
That's
And
what I like to
I
hear.
love it. I love it, man. I love
Good,
investing my
man.
time with these kids, and you know, they learning so much about the game. So you know, watching them get better. So shout out to my boys Mountainside. You know what I'm saying? I want them, you know, definitely to to watch this, man. They get riled up. So I just wanted
Yeah, man. Shout out
to
to them boys,
so,
little young
yeah.
Thundercats.
Yes, sir. And then you know, my foundation, you know, I've been fortunate to be, you know, to go to Egypt, Grenada, Greece,
You're
man,
gonna need a
all
new
over.
passport soon, boy.
Man, for real. I was blessed to go and just, you know, just teach kids about the game, talk about mental health,
Awesome, man.
you know, do some anti-bullying stuff, you know, and you know, just invest my time in the youth. And then, you know, we talking about this cannabis. I got my brand, my cannabis brand that I'm building out here in Arizona. It's called Players Club,
Okay.
as you can see. And
Okay.
you know, it's basically it's a crossover. You know, we everything sports. You know, it's everything sports. Um, and we're more of the holistic healing side of marijuana, how it can be used. You know, some use for preparation. It's all about your body type and how you know your personal usage. But um, yeah, man,
You a
yeah, man.
doctor now too, right, Larry? Tell me a little bit about like them oh, you got more letters in front of your name, boy, than the alphabet. Talk to me
Yeah,
about being a doctor, man. How did that title come through?
yeah. No, so I got my doctorate in philosophy. So
Wow.
yeah, so you know, just asking the bigger questions, man. You know, trying to figure. I've always been like that as a child. I feel like every child is a philosopher. You know, you just grow out of it. But I love
That's
philosophy.
what's up, man.
Yeah, so and then financial, I'm in the financial services now as well.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so helping people build their estate and protect their funds. And I like to say I'm a financial doctor as well because, you know, just like a doctor, someone when I meet someone and I see their portfolio or I see their financial situation, I personally can't heal it. You know, I personally can't heal them, but I have all these products that that will help. You know, just like
Mm,
a doctor. You know, that doctor is not gonna
I
sit there
love that.
and heal you, but the doctor got them products behind them. So, you
So
know,
we gonna name the philosophy like, you know what I mean, El Sanderism or something. We gonna have to get that shit something like Baduism. We gonna have to, you know, come up with what your philosophy is, man. And so,
it's
man, I appreciate it. I know it's
theosis.
early. I know it's early out on the West Coast, man, and you put your clothes on and your glasses on, you put your swag on for me. So I really appreciate that, bro. I miss you. I miss your energy, bro. I miss us breaking bread. When you
Yeah.
come back to Florida, we got to make sure we do that. Final words, El. Anything you got to say to the people out there, man? Anything you want them to know on your way out, champ?
Man, I appreciate you, KD. Nah, for real, man. You
And I
know,
love you, bro.
man,
Always.
yeah, man, always been in my corner, man. We done been through so much together, man. We got some
Yes, we
stories, bro.
have.
We done been through stuff. So, man, I just appreciate you, man. Just watching you, um, go through your journey as well. It's such an inspiration, man.
Thanks.
But you always been that, bro. It ain't nothing new.
Well, iron sharpens iron, man. And if you want to go quick, you go alone. If we want to go far, we got to all go together. So
Yes,
let's make
sir.
sure we keep our relationship, our bond, our connection, our communication, man, on point, man, because we need each other, bro. We need each other
Yep,
in this phase, man.
yep, my
Yeah.
brother.
All right, L, man. Love you, buddy. Thanks for
Man,
coming,
peace.
man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
you.
for
Wow. Wow. What a powerful testimony from my guy, my bro, Larry Sanders, man. Thank you so much for sharing, on every intersection of your career. Man, you stay encouraged, man. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you, man. This is Keyon Dooling. This is what's driving you. Remember, the biggest room in your life, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, right? You can get better. So gradually, step by step, incrementally, continue to get better. Once again, this is Keyon Dooling, and this is what's driving you. Peace.
This is what's driving you. And so my first question, man, I'm gonna get right to it. What's driving
Yeah,
you?
about my old lady, my kids, my family. That's what drives.
I wouldn't have met you when I did.
Here you go. Shut the shit. That's why it gets you in trouble.
What's up, man? This is what's driving you. I'm Keyon Dooling. What's driving you? And I'm gonna end like this. I think that the biggest room in the world, the biggest room in your life, is the room for improvement.